It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, we're going to ignore all the NBA stuff that happened over the last day because I don't want to talk about it and get sad again. Instead, let's talk about OTAs. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to have to drown out the sounds of my city burning to the ground because the Lakers were eliminated. Oh, I mentioned it. I'm sorry. I really mean to.
It's all right. It's all right. Just rubbing salt in that wound. Sorry. All right, Landon. So Cowboys had their second OTA practice that was open to the media on, was that Thursday? I'm getting my days mixed up now.
I know,
Thursday.
right? Yeah, it's Thursday. Yeah.
There's only about 1.5 million nuggets that we have to get through here. So I'm going to actually allow you to go first. What was the biggest takeaway that you had from this OTA practice?
Man, I think, the biggest thing, kind of overall I took away, if we're talking about on the field, I mean, because there's so much, between interviews, between what happened. And I think that the most encouraging thing to me was how the defensive backs played yesterday. We got encouraging reports from Trayvon Diggs, from Anthony Brown, from, despite Brown getting lambed, he it sounds like he had a good day. And again, Nahshon Wright, who seemingly, again, Sigmund Bloom, the drum beat, right? Like the constant, the constant drum beat. That's what you're looking for with these guys. It's good news that they've integrated with the rest of the vets, and guys like him are starting to still make plays. That's really encouraging. So to me, that's the most encouraging thing, because that's the thing I'm the most worried about.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about those defensive backs. Trevon Diggs, by all accounts, had a good day. No Kelvin Joseph. It sounds like there was a combination of maybe he was a little under the weather on Thursday, and I think the Cowboys also want to get him in better shape before he goes out there and practice. That's the nicest possible way that I can
very kind.
I'm not concerned about it. I think once we get to training camp, everything will be fine. I want to talk about Anthony Brown, because Michael Galkin of the Dallas Morning News mentioned that Brown is now the favorite to start as the outside cornerback opposite of Trayvon Diggs in week 1. Is that surprising to you at all?
There's levels there, right? Yeah. I think it's surprising because obviously we're thinking of Joseph going there, but we don't really know if he's going to be able to catch up in time to kind of earn that spot. We'll see.
At the same time, do you want him covering Mike Evans one-on-one in his first game?
Do you want Anthony Brown doing that?
No, but
it's not great options all around, frankly.
This is why they need to go out and get a veteran corner, right?
Well, look, I don't think Anthony Brown's a bad player.
No, I don't either.
I don't think he's a bad guy to start on the outside, in a spot situation. But if he's I guess he's not going to be the long-term solution as your second cornerback, because ultimately Joseph will take that spot, or maybe Wright at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's surprising in the sense that we always assume Brown would be the starter at nickel. It's not surprising in the sense that if Joseph's not ready yet, then who else would be the assumed starter at the outside corner if it isn't Brown?
No.
Outside of somebody that they signed.
Yeah,
but as of right now, Brown would be the second corner on this team if Joseph isn't available.
I guess I think you're right. I never even really thought about it. I just kind of assumed that Kelvin Joseph is going to be the starter, right? Because when you draft that guy at 44 or wherever they drafted him, you just kind of think he's going to be in the lineup. But I think there's a good chance that the Cowboys decide, hey, let's play Anthony Brown on the outside. Let's kind of work Kelvin Joseph in. And then when we get maybe halfway into the season or a bit before that, we'll turn to Joseph. But
well, real quick,
scary.
all these guys are going to play.
They're going to play.
That's the thing. Yep. So he'll get opportunities to work his way into earning that starting spot, and I assume that's likely what it will be. Right? They'll just portion out snaps to him until eventually he's the starting guy.
Nahshon Wright, what do we think about it? I mean, again, we only get limited stuff from OTAs. The Cowboys have had practices that we haven't seen yet, and we don't see every snap, but it does sound like Landon, he's made plays, right? And I think he had another interception yesterday. He had one just a couple days ago. Is there a chance that he is much further along than we ever anticipated?
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. And again, like, look, even now after he's been drafted, like I guarantee you that we haven't watched as much tape as they have of him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just of what is available for Oregon State.
Is there also just a chance that he's finally in the right scheme for him?
Yeah, I mean, it could be all those things. Look, it's one of those things where he had so little tape beforehand. He was completely off our radar, so we all scramble afterwards to kind of watch this. But we don't know how long this guy was on their radar. You know what I'm saying? Like they may have pegged this guy and said, "Look, he's clearly playing out of position in a defense that doesn't necessarily fit him. We think that a scheme change that accentuates his abilities could really help him shine." And maybe that's what we're seeing. Right? Is that he is? The concern was, can he turn? Does he have the short area quickness and explosion to kind of to do the job, against some of these smaller receivers. And what we've heard, I mean, again, I've never even seen a single snap with this dude with a Cowboys jersey on yet. So, but what we've heard is that he's breaking on underneath routes. He seems to be seeing things correctly. And he has the athleticism and then of course the length to get to the ball and to either, knock it down or intercept it. So yeah, I mean, I think that there is a very high possibility that he could be a better pro than he was a college player.
I will say this. I talked to somebody yesterday afternoon who has been at all the practices, not just the ones available to the media. And they said the flashes are just incredible. Like you could see like Brandon Brown or Richard Sherman plays from him that there's only a couple guys in the world that can make those kind of the pass deflections and interceptions. The biggest problem is the inconsistency, the footwork and the technique still needs a lot of work. But I think the team is really excited about what he could become in 2022, 2023. I don't think they're relying on him at all to play this year. I really don't.
These long corners, like we didn't see any of these flashes with some of the, I mean, we did eventually, but I think about, some of these really long guys that Chris Richard had, right? Like those guys sat on the back end of the roster, never really doing much for a while. And even after they developed, the fact that he's doing this already, and he hasn't even kind of cleaned up the footwork and everything else that goes along with kind of becoming a pro. I think that's a really good sign.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar, the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON20 and you'll get 20% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. I also want to tell you guys about Rock Auto. RockAuto.com is a family business serving auto parts to customers online for over 20 years. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The RockAuto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose the brand, specifications, and prices that you prefer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com today. All right, Landon. I want to get we're going to get back to practice in a second, but I want to go through some interesting media bites and quotes from after practice.
There were a lot.
There were a lot. I mean, we could do a whole show on just the quotes, but three of them really quickly. Lyle Collins says he's down to the lightest he's ever played at. I think he said 320. The goal is to get down. Oh, he's down to 310.
No, he was at 310. The goal is to get down to 308, I thought.
308, that's what it was. He was at 320. He said he lost 10 pounds, and the goal is to cut a couple more pounds. So that's good news. Yes. Tyron Smith said that he got the neck fixed, and the goal is to play as long as he can, not just a 1 year thing. This sounds like Tyron Smith wants to play for a long, long time. And then Leighton Vander Esch, did he throw Mike Nolan under the bus and then back up right over him? I mean, what do you want to say about Leighton Vander Esch?
I mean, he sure didn't try very hard to avoid hitting poor Coach Nolan, who was laying in the middle of the street. The funny part was that he tried to do it in a very kind of politically correct, like nice way, but it did not come off that way. And he just doesn't have that kind of tact, I don't think. No. So yeah, I mean, let's start there. I think his comments clearly showed the frustration that a lot of the players had with the defense last year. He talked about a lot of the things that we talked about, beyond the fact that it was a switch in defense, they were also having to deal with all this in a COVID year with probably a bunch of coaches who took 3 weeks to learn how to run a Zoom room. So you could sense the real frustration and the want to kind of move on there from Leighton Vander Esch, and he clearly seemed very excited as is everybody who's spoken about Dan Quinn. It's really just to a man. It's every single person who's been asked about Quinn has spoken very glowingly. And then going back to what were the other two? Tyron Smith.
Well, really quick, I want to finish up on Leighton. He had a really good answer. They asked him about Micah Parsons.
Yes,
about the Cowboys drafting Micah Parsons. He said the goal is to compete against each other, not with each other. That's what makes a team good. I really like that answer, and I think if the Cowboys can actually, if Vander Esch and Jalen and Keon and Neal, they can all embrace that. Hey, we're competing against each other for the best guy to get snaps. That is what's going to make this team really good. And it's not pouting because, okay, hey, Jalen's on the field and Leighton's not. That's what my fear has always been. Doesn't sound like that's an issue right now.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they're worried about it. I mean, the honest to God's truth is that all these guys are going to play a ton of snaps, even if everybody's healthy. And let's spoiler alert, they probably aren't going to all be healthy.
It's just the nature of the linebacker position, right?
Exactly. So there's plenty of opportunity for everybody. So we'll see exactly how it all shapes out. I know
as I say, McCarthy even mentioned, I believe it was in that video with Chris Collinsworth, that our linebacker rotation is going to be very much dependent on the offense that we're going against, the down and distance, just the how the game is going. It's not going to be a static thing where, okay, Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith are our starters, and they're going to play 99% of the snaps. I don't think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, and I was actually going to try to find that quote, but I thought it was really interesting that he, very much, and by he I mean McCarthy went out of his way to kind of mention that they were trying to be very personnel group based and trying to swap out a bunch of personnel groups, because that's what we've been talking about, right? That's what we've been suggesting is probably what they're going to do is find ways to deploy these guys in a variety of personnel packages, and then to try to get the best combination that matches up with who they're facing that week. And I think that's really exciting.
Let's go back to the offensive lineman. Tyron with his neck and Lyle with his weight. I mean, if you want to talk about the most important takeaways from OTAs, the comments from those two guys, I think, are what gets me the most excited, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and our good friend Joey Ikes was joking with us about it that, no one, and this isn't his, but everyone says this, no one used to have no one used to have a bad back, right?
Yeah.
You don't get better from a back.
Yes.
But this is clearly then the neck issue that Tyron had surgery for clearly has been an issue for him
for a while,
multiple seasons. Right. Yeah. They have requested him to have surgery multiple times.
Well, because it started with stingers, right? Like he would get stingers in games, and then he would miss 2 or 3 games at a time for a stinger. And you thought, okay, that's a little strange. And then he gets it fixed, and now all of a sudden he feels like he's in the best shape of his life. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I also think that it makes sense that neck injury, that unresolved neck issue would also be kind of daisy chaining down to his back, right? Because it's all part of the same structure, essentially. So, I'm not suggesting that suddenly Tyron Smith's got a good back, but what I am saying is that there could be a possibility that a lot of his back issues have been because of the neck that he never got fixed until just now. So I think I'm really excited to see what he's got. I mean, the fact that he's actually was able to work out a little bit more this year than he had been in a long time.
I'm shocked that he's at OTAs. Like, you know how cool it is that he's actually at OTAs? Because when he was out for the season, what was that, week 3 or whatever? I just assumed like, okay, we might not even see him in training camp. Like, they're just going to rest him as much as possible. And the fact that he's been out there and participating in both of the OTAs that we've seen so far, that's got to be great news, right?
And also on top of that, more great news is that it sounds like he really spent a lot of time this offseason working on getting flexible and working on flexibility. And I think that's really going to help his aging a lot.
Well, I also think it's very important that, I mean, it sounds like he wants to play for a long time. Like, I think there were some concerns. Hey, he might only be a 1-year player and you're going to move on after this year. If Tyron's healthy, you're not moving on from him. Like, I don't care what the salary is. You're not moving on from him.
And that may kind of explain some of the difference in our perceived need for offensive tackle versus what their perceived need was.
Essentially.
Like, as I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't have drafted Slater or whatever, but I think that, it was very clear, like, when we kind of started to get more information from the Cowboys about the draft, that they weren't as interested in offensive tackle as, the draft Nick community thought they would.
Not in the first 2 rounds, right?
Certainly not. Yeah.
Lyle. So we've actually talked about Lyle's weight a little bit on this show over the last, 12 months. But listen, he had double hip surgery. And when you have double hip surgery, you can't move, right? And even before that, before going back to OTAs and training camp, it was really bothering him. So he didn't work out any extra because he didn't want to push himself and injure himself. So he came into training camp way out of shape. Shouldn't have surprised anybody. He got the surgery, and now he is down to 310 pounds, and that's the ideal weight for him. If he can play at 310, 315, I think you're going to get, assuming the hips are good, I think you're going to get that borderline Pro Bowl right tackle again.
Yeah, and I think, the other angle of this too was the COVID situation. I think if he had been able to come in and see Britt Brown every single day, Britt would have like poked him in the stomach and said, "Hey, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? Go work out." It's like, and listen, I'm not saying Lyle's like, it's not a lazy thing. I think that there was a lot of confusion about what to do, considering he had hip issues and the COVID situation. They didn't know what the season, if there was going to be a season, they didn't know what anything was going to be. So that probably made the kind of calculus of, should I push myself? Should I not push myself? Even more difficult for Lyle.
All right, let's take one more quick break so I can tell you guys about Bet Online. Basketball season, unfortunately, is still in full swing. We've got baseball. You can check out all the latest news, odds, and info on all your sporting needs. Before the next pitch or the next tip-off, head over to Bet Online or on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Oh, geez, Bet Online. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. Guess what I won't be doing is betting on the Lakers. It's a different story.
Hey, real quick. Can I give this quote, the exact quote McCarthy get? So it's in regards to the defense this year with all these linebackers. The quote was, "It's more about personnel groups, matchups. That's what we're really focused on."
Yes,
that was music to my ears. It flew by on a podcast with Chris Collingsworth and a whole bunch of fluff about a whole bunch of stuff that didn't matter. That line right there, that's what I've been waiting to hear either Dan Quinn or Mike McCarthy say for a while, because that unlocks the key to understanding what they're doing defensively. That's why they've gotten these wide variety of role players, is so they can deploy a multitude of personnel groups, which will then allow these players to thrive in whatever role they're in.
Did you see the picture of Keanu Neal? How jacked he is. Like he's not a safety anymore.
Oh,
I bet
man.
he's a good 235. I mean, he is jacked.
I saw him like in the interview or whatever that he gave, and he looked, but he was sitting down, so I could really tell.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta check that out for sure.
He's not playing many snaps at safety this year. Let me just tell you that. A couple quick hitters right here. Ezekiel Elliott.
We're gonna talk about this, huh? Here we go.
I mean, Slim Zeke is a good Zeke for me, right? Like, I think he needed a year to like realize what the pace of this offense is going to be under Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy, and realize, hey, we don't need you to be this battering ram anymore that goes up against 8 and 9 man boxes. We need you to be a slasher that can get downhill quickly. I really like what I've seen from Zeke so far.
You've been talking to Dez, huh? Is that what it is? He tweeted the same thing.
Yeah.
He tweeted the same thing, saying, look, this is more now. His body type is more of a fit for what McCarthy wants to do, and hopefully that means better success for him as well. I personally think you need to tweet out a picture of him and go, is Zeke skinny? Is Zeke too skinny? Like, just see how Twitter reacts.
Yeah.
Look, and beyond that too, like we saw, I mean, look, we're freaks for the Cowboys. So we watched the social media videos of these guys working out and try to glean things, and that was exciting to see. But at the same time, it's like, these are workout videos. They're done by the places where they go to work out. So, it's basically advertising for them. But to see him get into practice and to have, Broadus and some of the other reporters that were on site to kind of confirm, hey, he looks different. He looks quicker. He looks skinnier. That's super exciting.
I'm all about, as players get older, them slimming down, right? We've seen this time and time again for players, because when you get older, you just can't carry that weight as well as you did when you're 21, 22 years old. I think it's a better thing for Zeke in his career. I think it's a better thing for the Cowboys. I think it's just better for everybody.
It's a better fit for this offense too.
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. A couple more. Tony Pollard practicing at receiver. I saw a lot of people freaking out at Twitter, on Twitter. Nothing to be concerned about, right? He is a former receiver.
It's a non-story.
It's a non-story.
He's a former wide receiver, and I think 4 wide receivers were sick last week, so they just played him there.
You need to put him in a slot. Can he do some stuff out of there? Sure, why not? The more you can do, the better. Micah Parsons got an interception on Gucci Danucci. I think it was on an RPO.
That's what they said. And if that's the case, man, that's really impressive, because, I mean, especially if he was the apex defender, like if he's the guy that they're actually trying to manipulate, if he was able to get back over, and again, we didn't see any of this, so I don't know. But if he was able to get back over to I think it was Foki. That was the receiver. The fact that he was able to trigger the quarterback to pull the ball and throw it, that meant that he was following the running back's motion, and then was still able to get back over to his hook zone and pick that ball off. That's pretty impressive stuff, man. And that's why you get these kind of a lot of people have been talking about cover 3 and about how it can be manipulated by RPOs and you can be RPO to death. If you have athletic linebackers, it becomes a lot more difficult. Those windows become tighter, and there's also different flavors of cover 3 that you can do to kind of help manipulate that as well. But this things like this. Like, that's really encouraging for that we have a linebacker that's that athletic.
The last thing that we need to hit on, and I saved the best for last, CeeDee Lamb's catch over Anthony Brown. So I'm sure you guys have all seen it by now, but it was a throw. Dak got outside the pocket, threw the ball, 40, 50 yards down the field to CeeDee Lamb. He's sprinting down the right sideline, and he's able to put his foot in the ground, jump up in the air, and make just a ridiculous grab. This feels a little bit like early Dez, right?
I remember early Dez.
Yeah, like early Dez at training camp, where it's like, okay, there's always somebody in practice that has a really good day, but it's every day Dez is the star of practice, right? I've got a feeling we're gonna be seeing that in Oxnard in a couple months.
I remember when Dez, I was at Yeah, I was at Dez's first training camp, and I remember like it was one of those things where the team had a lot of really good players already, and he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know how to play wide receiver at all, basically. But he would do things every single day that were just unbelievable, and you saw it, and you were like, "This guy's going to be something special." And obviously, he ended up being very special. So. And I don't see anything different with CeeDee Lamb. I think honestly, I mean, I don't want to end this segment without pointing out that the most impressive part, without a doubt, was CeeDee Lamb making that catch. It was unbelievable. The most important thing, though, was that Dak was able to spin out of the pocket, run to his right, and throw a ball 50 yards down the field. And I didn't see a single hitch in his giddy up. I didn't see anything. Nope. He looks good, and that's very encouraging.
That was easily the highlight of the day. I did think it was really important that Mike McCarthy, before practice started, said that he's seen so much growth in CeeDee Lamb from year 1 to year 2. Last year, they really only had him playing in the slot. They said now he's learning. He's learned 4 different wide receiver positions. They're going to move him all around depending on the matchups. Sounds like the Cowboys, they might have a superstar in their hands on CeeDee Lamb, and it wouldn't surprise me, Landon. Like, I'm maybe the biggest Amari Cooper fan in the world. It wouldn't shock me at all if CeeDee's the better player pretty quickly. Like, I think that's the ceiling here for CeeDee Lamb.
I marked it at the end of the season. By the end of the season, it may be well before that.
It's gonna be a lot of fun to see how that plays out. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please continue to follow us on YouTube. You can follow Landon at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Monday with another episode